Did AEW go too far with that main event of Jon Moxley versus Kenny Omega? I am Luca, and this is housemate Simon Longdon, and welcome to the AEW Full Gear 2019 review. I don't know if they're going to do another one. I'm just going to call it 2019 for now, I suppose. But yeah, I thought it was a terrific show.
It was good.
Absolutely terrific show. Capped off with this main event, this unsanctioned, lights out main event. So, I mean, broad strokes to talk about the question of this video, did they go too far? For me personally, no. I've seen a lot of people online, Dave Meltzer in particular was very down on the match because he thought they did go too far. He thought the match went too long and they did too many ideas. I don't think it went. I don't think it went too far. I thought it was nuts and it was insane at times. But I wouldn't say that it was like, oh my God, I think they took things too far.
No. I mean, was it really any more far than Gargano and Ciampa?
Yeah.
I really like seeing the reaction online before seeing the pay-per-view.
Yes.
I thought they had done some 90s Japanese death match with fireworks.
C4 exploding everywhere. Yeah.
And then I actually thought, I mean, could it have been 8 minutes shorter? Maybe. Was that the be-all and end-all of it? Not really.
Yep.
I thought it actually had quite a good pace, and it actually unlike a lot of those sort of matches, it had a pace and a narrative that kind of went up and down, and some amazing spots.
Oh God, incredible! Yeah.
And even it's like, so I did see a few, like, I think it might have been Bix and Spam might have said, like, it was kind of like, oh, it was like gimmick this and blah, blah, blah. So I was expecting, when I first saw the barbed wire, I thought, oh, actually, that does look a bit gimmicky. And then he hits him with it.
Yeah, and you can see the puncture marks in his back right away.
So yeah, no, I don't think it went too far at all,
No,
actually.
No, and it was really weird because, like, as you say, when I saw the discourse online, because we only just finished watching this pay-per-view, more or less, like probably about 10 minutes before we went live, where I finally finished the whole thing. I sort of like watched bits and pieces and then had to watch the thing as a whole. But I was expecting it to be way more sort of outrageous than it really was. Yeah. But as you said, like, it's no more like hardcore than some of the Ciampa Gargano matches that we had last year in their sort of trilogy of matches. And for me, I would much rather see wrestlers. Like, I think it's chaos, but it's controlled chaos.
Yes.
And I would much rather this level of controlled chaos than, say, Will Ospreay doing the Spanish fly off the ring apron and cracking down on his neck.
Yes.
Like, I think it was last year, that spot. And I'm pretty sure it was last year. I'm sure Will Ospreay doesn't remember it.
Yeah.
But, like, he did the Spanish fly and came crashing down on his neck and shoulders. And it was like, that's a move that is going to shorten your career.
Yes.
That is going to, you're going to look back on moments when you like look back at your career, you'll be like, that was the moment where I lost a couple of years of me doing this for a certain amount of time. Whereas it's controlled chaos. So you might get some puncture marks in your back from some barbed wire, or you do a suplex onto a barbed wire bed, or you fall into some glass or something. You're just going to get some cuts and bruises. But at the end of the day, you're probably still going to be fine next week.
Yeah.
You'll just be a bit banged up.
Yeah, I thought. But even when you look at some of the stuff Kenny Omega did before he left New Japan, when he did the sort of crazy fly over through the commentators' table, and that nearly killed him.
Yeah, totally.
And that was a normal match.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really don't. Having seen it, gone in thinking, oh, this thing's going to be. It wasn't particularly bloody. There
was. I think.
The one on the back of Moxie's head was bad.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like there was no
crimson mask.
Considering Muta was in the room, there was no crimson mask going on,
No one bled as much as Dustin did at Double or Nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I don't really think it went too far at all. I actually thought it had a kind of it connected with the crowd in the way that I do think is very particular to AEW, which is there is a sense of I'm going to use the word irony, but I don't mean it to say that they don't take it seriously. Mm-hmm. But there is a connection with the crowd where they kind of go, everyone knows what's going on, everyone's in on it, and therefore you get to do the silliest stuff. And some of this was kind of silly. No, the glass was obviously sugar glass or whatever.
Yeah.
But everyone bought in.
And it worked.
Like,
they sold it so well. And the crowd just bought into everything that they did.
Yeah.
There's a moment during this match when they were doing the Hangman noose spot with the chain. The crowd just went very, very silent because the way that Moxley was positioned, where his feet were off the ground, and the way that the pair of them were selling it. So I think actually, when I got my notes here, someone actually yells out, "He's losing air, ref! Come on!"
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I heard that guy.
And it's just, I think the way that the two guys sold all of these spots, I think really elevated every one of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, as you say, like, oh yeah, we know it's not glass, it's not real glass, it's just sugar glass, which is nice and safe, but it adds all the drama to it. So when they were doing like the snap German suplex into it, I did go, ooh.
Yeah. But I think the temptation for some people might be to say, oh, therefore it kind of took all the, I don't know. Sugar glass still hurts. It just doesn't hurt anywhere near as much. Like, you're supposed to go through it. You're not supposed to rub yourself in it.
Get dragged along here, be like, oh, this is fun.
But I thought that was the really clever thing to do. Stuff like, I think sometimes we get carried away with this. There are so many big spots now in any match on any given night, but actually stuff that's like the dragging through the glass or whatever, like. It was an unexpected, totally psychological spot, and I just thought stuff like that was brilliant. The way they played, the way these two guys were, they didn't even really want to win. They were just trying to punish each other and prove to each other that they could be the more crazy one, which took it in this different dimension. I thought it was really fun,
and it totally ties into all of the story they've been telling leading into this match, which I think has been a fantastic story going into it, and it just played off into the match itself. I just thought both guys executed it perfectly.
I will say as well, in terms of the story, I thought, I'm sure we'll talk about JR's commentary at some point, but Excalibur's commentary, he threw in lots of little nuggets that just kind of, so when Omega got the glass, he made sure to reference that must be the glass from the thing that he went through.
Table,
and all those little things. I just thought actually this was a sort of full production. Totally. I thought it was all those little moments really elevated it. I thought,
particularly with Excalibur, when at the end of the match when Omega did the Phoenix Splash. A Kota Ibushi move. God. And oh man, did he clatter into those boards. Excalibur made a note to point out that's a Kota Ibushi move. Like without saying the name Kota Ibushi.
No, he said, didn't he say a tribute to the Golden Lovers?
Like the Golden Star and so he's making these references. So it ties into that Kenny Omega character and the sort of the journey that he has been, this consistent character journey for Omega. Yeah. So I thought Excalibur was fantastic all night.
He was, yeah.
JR had his moments. He was a bit salty, JR.
He just seemed to be in a bad mood. And also he spent the whole night explaining the rules, but as if the audience had never seen a wrestling match, and then kept using sports references. So every time someone touched the ropes, he called it out of bounds. And it was a really bizarre evening for him. I don't really know what was going on.
Well, let's run through some of these spots on this, because like it's brawled early and they have the big sort of jumping drop kick over the railings. Like my first note is like, well, this is awesome already, because it just feels like these two guys hate each other, and this is a match that Moxley has been wanting since he was denied it at All Out. So and now he wants the match with Omega. And all of a sudden, they've thrown this wrench into his plan, saying like, "Oh, by the way, it's not going to count in your win-loss record." So Moxley's just like, "All right, F it then.
Yeah,
I'm just going to go out there and you can't sanction me then. Like, I'm just going to go out there and kill your boy."
Yeah,
and that was all Moxley was trying to do all match long, try and kill their boy.
Yeah.
We got the barbed wire baseball bat, the barbed wire broom. The cleaner was cleaning him up with the barbed wire broom. I thought some really, really good stuff in there. Moonsault with a trash can, and then we got the board of mouse traps.
This is the only bit I thought was a bit.
I liked it.
I thought it was fine.
Yeah, it was very CZW, but
because the thing is, I always think because unless you actually put your finger in one, they just go off. They don't really do anything. But I thought the way Kenny made sure they all clipped and went off, actually, it did pop the crowd. I then know for that bit I wrote down was that we could just rename this the Johnny Knoxville Invitational.
I was about to say it felt very Jackass at times. It felt very Jackass, or that Superhuman lad on Twitter. For all my juggalos, whoop whoop, I'm going to jump into these.
I could definitely in my head, as that came out, I thought, some people are going to really hate this.
I think that was the point that Dave Meltzer turned off when he was like, I'm done. I'm out now, I think.
I think so.
We got the chain. Mox got this sort of like big...
the chain that's one of those spots where you think, it's a shame that, we'll never know how much that hurts, but that was probably one of the more painful things they did. And it's hard to communicate some of those things sometimes wrestling match, but I thought actually the crowd bought into that spot.
Yeah.
A lot, like really well, and it kind of really sold it.
Absolutely, yeah. When Mox was choking him with him, and then Omega, I was hanging him essentially with the chain. It was brutal.
Oh, that was a great bit of Excalibur commentary as well, because they did a weird thing where there was. I mean, I don't know if we're gonna have a sort of picking nits section of the of this review
on a WrestleTalk video.
I know. Let's not get into the nitty gritty. But a couple of times in the night, and particularly in this match, wasn't quite sure what the rules were. And so when Moxley got to the ropes, is
this in the sharpshooter?
No, so this was, I think it kind of looked like the ref was breaking up the hanging because Moxley was like holding or in the ropes, and then Jericho comes in out of bounds, and then Omega sort of let go. And Excalibur went, did you see that? The blood on his hands made him slip from the chain. It's the only reason he got out. It's like, now he was obviously covering for what was sort of a kind of, who gives it less, let's get out of this move kind of moment. But actually...
I think
that was a brilliant little...
Absolutely. Making storyline sense of something like that. Like, the criticism that I've had against AEW, particularly since the launch of Dynamite, have been the rules at times. Like, the 6-man on the opening show, which somehow ended up being a handicap match, but there was never really an explanation as to given why there was no DQ. There was one a couple of weeks later as well. I think we said they botched the finish. It was the Darby Allin-Chris Jericho match, I think it was.
Yeah, that was it.
So they've had a couple of moments like this, but... I thought that Excalibur did a really good job of covering for some of these things. So, when Omega had him in the sharpshooter and Moxley had to drag himself through the glass to get to the ropes, it wasn't to get a rope break. It was so he could pull himself up with the ropes. Yeah. And Excalibur pointed that out and being like, hey, there's no rope breaks here. There's no rules.
Yeah.
But he was using the ropes for leverage.
Yeah.
So you still got to do the rope break spot and the crawling through the glass, but it makes sense within the confines of the rule, which I thought was really, really nice.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Right, so with the crowd went very, very quiet off the hanging spot. Omega hit the Rise of the Terminator through this table that had been set up earlier.
I totally forgot that was there.
Yeah, I know.
Normally you sort of remember those bits. For some reason I forgot they went through. Oh yeah,
Chekhov's table. And that's when they get the broken glass out, which when Excalibur says that must be the broken glass from the table that he was put through on the first episode of Dynamite. Tries to stab him in the face, but instead gets him in the webbing of the fingers.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Again, as a wrestling fan, you're like, I mean, I know his fingers probably aren't getting sliced up, but I totally bought into everything. Yeah. And I loved it. I loved the fact that I got to buy into this.
We can get too carried away with criticizing wrestling for its realism. Just buy in. If the move is I'm slicing his finger open and it looks fairly realistic, well then go along with it.
Absolutely.
You'll probably have a better time.
Set out powerbomb into the glass, and then Omega dragged him through it. Yeah, really, really good stuff. And that's when we got the V-trigger reversed into the German suplex into the glass. That was awesome. Omega stabbed Mox in the head with the ice pick, and then he motions for the Bucks and Hangman Page to come out. And they're like going, whoa, no, Kenny, you're going too far. And he's like, no, you go get my toy. And they bring out this barbed wire bed. Yeah.
It's bizarre.
Who built this thing, and why was it in the building? I suppose we can assume that Kenny was the one who
commissioned it.
I'm going to use my vice presidency role to commission this. Yeah. Spend the money, Tony. And they did the sort of they reversed some moves, and then eventually Moxley hit the suplex off the ramp into the bed. I thought it just looked spectacular.
There was some great selling by the sort of, I guess you call them their young lions or whatever, but one of them was right by the camera and got caught up in it and was looking at the crowd going, they were all selling it as well.
Yeah.
And again, Excalibur kept pointing out, look, the guys are getting caught up in it, just trying to get them out.
Yeah.
Because those bits could have looked really fake. But because everyone was selling so well and the commentary was selling, it really, really worked.
There was a moment actually, again, putting over Excalibur, when they were in the glass, when Paul Turner went to go make the count, he got his hand in the glass and sold him ow, I got it. And Excalibur's like, did you see Paul Turner also got his hand in the glass? Look how dangerous this all is. And after they get out of the barbed wire beds, Moxley starts punching some of these this ring crew.
Just rabbit punch that guy.
He just stands there like So funny.
The crowd really went like it hit him with a hammer. They were like, "Oh,
he hit a ring person!" And then all of a sudden we get this V-trigger through this like AEW Full Gear light fixture that they had.
Yeah.
Oh, it was amazing. Like, it sounded brilliant.
Yeah.
It just looked cool.
And again, Moxley got up first, which was weird. And then Excalibur noticed that Omega might have hit his head on the way through.
Yeah.
Replay showed it. Now it makes sense that Moxley got up first. Even though he had, it was just one of those weird little moments again where you're like, okay, this is everyone's working to make this make sense.
And then I love when they finally get back into the ring. Kenny Omega goes and grabs a bit of the table that they broke earlier to be like, I'm going to throw this into him. And it was a great red herring distraction because he walked into a paradigm shift into the glass. And I popped massively like, oh my God, it's the finish.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I totally bought that as the finish, and it wasn't. And then we got the final spots of the match, which was Moxley tearing up the canvas to the exposed boards. It reminded me of the obviously the Ciampa and Gargano stuff from last year.
Straight away, yeah.
But the LAX, ex-LAX, what do they call the original? The OGs from TNA last year as well, when they did their Concrete Jungle match, which had all the boards.
Yeah, of course.
Which I think Ortiz recently said, it was either Ortiz or Santana said on Twitter, it was the dumbest match he's ever taken part in.
There's a lot of people who said that about TNA matches they've had.
I think it was just more like, I didn't want to take any of those bumps, but I just kept taking them. But we get a big DDT onto the board. We get Omega misses the Phoenix splash.
That was. Sometimes people just pile into the floor in wrestling, and you just go, Jesus Christ!
Crikey.
Like, no attempt to stop, and also it cut his head up a bit like Cody's was. Like, he really he looked a bit unsure going up, and I was just like, maybe I thought he was just kind of selling his balance. He was tired or whatever.
Yeah,
but I think he was probably just thinking, I'm just gonna take it. Didn't do anything to brace, or he just took it.
Yeah, because when Moxley then hit that paradigm shift, you want to talk about high angle. It was almost a suplex.
Yeah, it was. I mean, yeah. When Kenny, as soon as it hit, I was like, okay, well, we're now. Yeah, that was.
We're in the end game now.
Yeah, that was insane. So funny, it's funny, isn't it? How often the simplest thing.
Yeah.
Is the most spectacular.
Completely, yeah, absolutely. It was just, they did the wrestling finishing move.
Yeah. And
that was the one you made you go like, oh my God.
And also like lots of, it sounds so simplistic, but lots of spots which are lots of sort of very small, tight, gruesome things to then just have a very loud impact. Suddenly that jumps off the page.
Completely, yeah. I thought the match was absolutely awesome. I thought it was an incredible match. I thought it told a great story. I think both guys sold everything brilliantly throughout. I don't think they went too far.
No.
I thought that they actually pitched this really, really well.
Yeah, I do too.
I think they hit every single note.
Yeah, it was no, yeah, I thought the argument that it had gone too far was very strange. It was no, we had at WrestleMania screwdrivers through noses and pliers, whatever we had. And Jeff Hardy had that thing through his ear. We've done, WWE has done super gross stuff. That was way grosser than this. I thought this was, I think you're right. I think the tone of it was pitched just right. I think the way, it really showed this different side of the way Omega's character has changed and how, gleeful he was. But he was still ultimately trying to just sort of join Moxley in Moxley's world. And it was just, I thought their character work in it was brilliant as well.
Yeah. I think comparing it to... Because obviously Dave Meltzer made this comparison. We've seen other people make the comparison as well. Comparing it to Mankind Undertaker from King of the Ring 1998, I think is not a fair comparison. Because that was a match that changed Mick Foley's whole life. Yeah. Not in the sense of it turned him into this sort of mega superstar and he really got the crowd on his side. It was people watched him walk into that match and they watched him limp after that match.
Yes.
You watch him versus Shawn Michaels at Mind Games and you watch him a couple of years later after that King of the Ring match. It's a completely different man.
Yeah.
And that match and the bump off the top of the cell completely changed the way that man's life functioned from then on.
Yeah.
Whereas this match, they're going to have some cuts, they're going to have some bruises. Apparently Kenny Omega's not cleared to wrestle this week, which could just be, storyline-wise, could just be a work.
Also, could just be, looks like he took that splash pretty hard on the head, and he's probably just a bit rattled, maybe a minor concussion.
Yeah, exactly. Something along those lines.
Or even just caution.
But I don't think this match is going to shorten either man's career.
No, I don't think so. I just think the King of the Ring comparison, I saw that too, and I just thought, what a bizarre bar to set for any match, really. Let's not desensitize. Mick Foley did nearly die twice in that match. And that was, no one had ever seen anything like that before. The cell as a thing had only existed for a couple of years.
But less than a year.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that's a really silly bar to set for it.
I don't think it's a fair.
This was not some like we've never seen that before match with a. It was exactly what it was, and it was exactly what they pitched it to be actually as well. Like there was no, when you look at the build up as well, no one's been missold this match.
No.
I don't think in any way. It's not. I don't know what people were expecting going in, but it met my expectations.
Yeah.
And exceeded them in terms of quality, in terms of the fun I had watching it. But in terms of the tone and the level of sort of depravity, it was nothing like the Kingdom. That's a really silly.
I agree.
And also really. Let's not belittle what Mick Foley went through as well. Let's not compare going through, dropping onto some barbed wire from 2 feet in the air to what he did. Let's not sully the memory of what he did by just comparing every drop.
Yeah, completely. Right, well, let's see what y'all have got to say up in the super chats. Thank you to our mod mother for checking this all out for us. Thank you very much, Lady Lou. On the Moxley Omega subject, Jobber JJ 496, Ollie Davis's #1 fan, says, for me, in answer to the question, did they go too far? For me, no, because I'm a sick bastard. But for others, maybe yes. Zach Icon Linda says they didn't go far enough. Needed 10,000 light tubes.
I thought they were going to do light tubes only because there's a sort of callback to CCW, because CCW was in the
video package.
So I thought they were going to, because that's so their thing. I was kind of expecting that, but also glad they didn't.
Yeah. I've got a bit of a thrill that all of that CCW footage was in 4:3 as well.
I know, I really like that. Like it was some age old.
We found these archived video.
Bob Buckland in CCW.
Zach is back in again to say some of the items felt super contrived at times, which you mentioned earlier as well. And I've seen a few people make those. But it's wrestling.
But it's wrestling. But also they had a reason to be there. Like the mousetrap one, was silly. I happen to not mind it. But if somebody said they did, that's fine. But like even the craziest one was obviously the barbed wire bed. But Omega called for it.
Yeah.
Described it and asked for it. And it makes total sense that he would have gone mad and built this thing. I don't think that was that.
No.
Weird. It existed in the universe they created.
Exactly. So. Michael Howell says, I was at Full Gear. Oh, lucky you, man. It was a great show. He continues, so I didn't hear the commentary. Did they connect that the glass used came from the table in DC? They did indeed. Yeah. So that's full on Excalibur. That.
I wonder if did he just in the room make that connection himself?
I think Omega probably told him. Like, I think Omega's that kind of wrestler.
Oh, sorry, no, I mean the guy who went to the thing.
Right.
As someone in the crowd, I wonder whether that was just he just clocked it himself, or whether other people were kind of aware of that.
I didn't make the connection until Excalibur said it.
No, I didn't either.
And I don't think I would have done had Excalibur not said it.
No, that's true. I don't think I would have either.
Blaze Mickelson says, fans, brackets early 2019, thank God the old Jon Moxley is back. Fans, late 2019, John is out of his mind. Barbed wire, glass, well, never.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. Andrew Woodhouse, not a fan of death matches, but I did enjoy this match because of how good John and Kenny are, and it does fit the story. Twice a year maximum for me. And actually, there's a very interesting thing, because I saw someone make this point. I think it was Justin Henry, who writes for Cultaholics website. I think it was him that made this point. And I hope that he's right on this, is that because the level of violence in this match was, in this sort of kayfabe world, very, very high, that this almost now be like, we're not going to do another unsanctioned match. It's too dangerous. So in the AEW world, Tony Khan and the rest of the vice presidents have made the decision. That's it now.
They're now going to crack down on that sort of thing.
We've done 3 of them this year, and it's gone too far. We can't do any more of these. And then you don't do one for a year, or you don't do one for 18 months. Then when you announce we're doing another lights out match, it's this big deal of being like, oh my God, they brought it back.
Yeah.
So actually, like, you don't do another one now for 18 months, 2 years. To really build that anticipation to be like, I challenge you to a lights out unsanctioned match. Like, oh my God, they brought it back.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing to do. Really.
Yeah. Start recording. The giant board with a load of mouse traps in it was possibly the silliest hardcore weapon I've seen in a while. Oh, hang on. Surely we've all forgotten the iron tube hid behind roses that Eddie Guerrero and China used to use.
I mean, Darby Allin putting himself through a Cracker Barrel. It's pretty silly.
And he's got thumbtacks on a skateboard.
Yeah. He basically kickflipped off someone's back.
Yeah, and let's not forget as well the former Dean Ambrose used to use a potted plant as a weapon as well, like Mitch the potted plant. I think that might be slightly sillier. Flint Mecht, gimmicked props and the exhaustively planned moves executed by professionals. I think it's rad that people can be so worked in 2019 wrestling. I completely agree with you. And lastly, Carlo Masaru, or Morrisau maybe. Kenny and Mox win Battle Bowl AEW version. I thought it was a really, really great match.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot.
But let's get into the full show itself. I didn't actually get round to watching the Britt Baker B Priestley match, but I heard it was good.
Too,
but really, the key to it is that we got the re-debut of Awesome Kong. She made her return after the match with Brandy Rhodes to beat up both of them and cut off some of B Priestley's hair to be a DNA collector.
There was a great. It was a really good video package in the main show for that as well, actually.
Yeah,
that really sold
good.
Yeah.
I'm actually, because obviously this was announced while I was away, because I've not been here for the last couple of weeks. I was disappointed that Baker versus Priestley, has had a distinct lack of build on TV, despite the fact that there's been building since their second ever pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
So it's had a very little amount of build on TV, which I think is a shame. And B, the fact that it wasn't on the main card, I think is also a shame. You probably could have put Janela Spears on the main card and put Priestley and Britt Baker on the main card, trying to elevate them somewhat. But I think really my biggest criticism is that I think that match deserved way more build.
Yeah, I agree. It was an odd decision because it felt like in the lead up to it, they've done a lot of promotion online for it. It felt like it was getting a real buzz, from the actual company as well, and they're really talking up particularly Britt and her sort of becoming the new fan favorite kind of thing. I don't know. I just thought it was. I did think it was an odd decision to put it there. It was I don't know. I mean, someone who knows a lot more about the economics of these sorts of things will tell me otherwise, but. It's part of me that thinks that I just don't think they should even be doing pre-shows. They should just have. Yeah. It seems like It's
an old school method, really, isn't it? You put it on sort of like the half hour before the pay-per-view starts, and it's on that pay-per-view channel so that you can go and then order it. You call up your provider to get it.
And the problem with that is that you then are left with the same conundrum every time, which is, okay, so this might sell a few more at the last minute, so we need to put something big on it. So you should put something big on it. People then complain that you put the big thing on the wrong end.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. Completely.
And they obviously just had to kind of at a toss-up. As a toss-up, I'm surprised they didn't put Sean Spears on the pre-show because more people know him broadly.
Maybe, yeah.
So to me, that actually has a broader appeal.
Yeah,
in some way, but
But anyway, we got an awesome video package, and it was all about sort of the pressure of the show, but also about earning your spot. And actually, I thought it did a really good job of hyping me up for this event. I thought it was a really solid opening video package, and the crowd looked amazing.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely spectacular.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I first turned on, I spun around to you and was just like, well, I guess
they
didn't have an issue selling this one.
Yeah, because there were those images that were being pushed around during the week that the Wednesday show that they did, I can't remember where it was, didn't sell particularly well. I think like half the arena looked like it was empty.
And I think, there's two ways of looking at that. One, which is less people are going to see wrestling, so they're trying to fill the same rooms as Raw, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, there's a sort of economics to that, which you kind of think, well, that doesn't surprise me. At the same time, they're also there to make a TV show, and I've made TV shows where you have to. I know, where you've got you're in a studio that's got 300 seats, and you have to paper sections of it, move people down, move people around. Someone wears a stupid hat, so you have to move them over somewhere. Sometimes I just kind of think I don't actually think when it's on TV, I don't think it's a big deal because they're not necessarily trying to make all their money from selling those tickets. Obviously, they would like to sell more, but I don't think I take less of a sort of hardcore view on that as a sort of real being any kind of particular indicator of anything broader than just there's just not enough physical fans to go to so many shows.
I do apologise for wearing that hat though.
No, it wasn't. It was a show about video games in which the same person kept turning up every day dressed as Zelda.
Oh, right.
Full gear. So we had to just say, if you
Full
watch
gear.
Full gear. So yeah, if anyone in the UK watched Dara O'Brien's Go 8-Bit,
Good show.
you can watch sequential episodes and you can spot the same Zelda in different bits. Because she would come to the same recording the same day.
Yeah.
We had to keep moving her around.
Speaking of which, actually, I'm going to give a cheap plug here to Steve McNeil's book, Hey Listen. Which
very
is,
good book.
I was reading it while I was in Hong Kong, and it is fantastic.
Really funny.
Oh, it's so funny. Yeah,
he's
really,
hilarious.
really good. So yeah, check out Hey Listen. It's a history of the golden era of video games. Really, really good. So yeah, we had no Shivani on commentary either. Apparently he had other commitments.
JR said he was on assignment to the Georgia Bulldogs. So I don't know if that was a joke or whether he actually just happens to not finished commentating for a college football team.
Could be. I don't know, man. But either way, I felt that his presence was missing on
The
this show.
two-man booth was... I find myself always arguing for a two-man booth, except if the two left are both trying to be lead commentator, that was an awkward balance, I thought. They kept they were just trying to
both
50-50
being play-by-play, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think that quite worked.
If I was to have a choice, I think I would probably want it to be Excalibur and Shivani.
Yes, I would as well.
So I think Salty JR can be a bit much at times.
Yeah, and also they're changing their commentary team a lot at the minute, and they're struggling to tell the audience, who is the voice of AEW. I personally think it makes much more sense just to say Excalibur is the voice of AEW with Shivani, who you may know and love from the 90s to 2000s. So that makes more sense to me personally, and I've sort of grown a bit tired of JR at this point.
Yeah. I mean, well,
when he's great, still the best.
Yes,
probably, but it's not happening enough.
There are times when I've had my issues with Salty JR over the last few years, particularly in his New Japan work, and I was really hoping that AEW would be different Salty JR. But actually, it's been kind of like more or less the same Salty JR, which is just like, this is not the type of wrestling that I like, and therefore I'm going to call that out, and I'm going to say that this isn't very good. I'd prefer it if people didn't do this. And it's funny as well, because I've always thought this was a recent JR thing. But the Attitude Era podcast, that they're reviewing 1997 at the moment, and JR was doing it then. They were talking about this Vader match where JR says like, hey, we're going to get the good Vader from WCW or the crap Vader that we're getting now in the WWF. In so many words, it's like JR, I guess, has always just done this. He's just been much better at hiding it at times. Yeah. Bowling Shoe Ugly would be his call. Don't break out the star rating for this one, folks. He had his moments in this. I thought he was good at times, but I was missing Shivani.
I was missing Shivani, yeah.
Well, we opened with Proud and Powerful, Santana and Ortiz versus the Young Bucks as our opening contest. I thought this was amazing.
Yeah, I absolutely loved this match.
Match was awesome.
I think it's also really worth saying, I know this is obviously the kind of top-down management thing, but like the tag team stuff in AEW is unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. So good.
It's so good. And I just think Ortiz is awesome. You know what's weird? This is not... Don't jump on me for this comparison. They've got an element of the kind of Enzo and Cass relationship.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. So it's like Santana is this sort of like bulldoggish,
sort of the really
you need to keep him on a
funny,
leash,
quite weird. Like
there's the back rakes with the thriller pose.
He's sort of the kind of like soul of the team in a way. Now, obviously, both of them I think are much more talented and interesting than both Enzo and Cass combined.
Yeah,
but I just thought it's just a funny. I never really noticed it before. I don't know why I noticed it this time. They really played off Ortiz's personality, a lot more. I'm just noticing it more. I just thought it was interesting.
They're such a good team.
They're so fun.
They're absolutely incredible.
And the Young Bucks, by the way, are still they're still light years ahead of 90% of tag teams in the world. They are so good.
There was a moment during this where I'm really gutted that I didn't think of this joke first because it's a Steve and Larson joke, but it's so good. They keep calling them XLAX.
Yeah,
it's good. It's so good.
It's good.
But they've got
a great entrance theme, which is rare in AEW.
I was actually one of my points I was going to make later on, and it was another criticism I had of AEW sort of since in the post Dynamite world, is that I don't think they've made a good enough job of presenting their wrestlers through entrance music and the entrances.
No.
But I've noticed it more the last couple of weeks of Dynamite, at least the past couple of weeks I've seen where I've not been away, and this show. It really felt like the entrance music were made more of, so the entrances were made to feel bigger, and they felt more like stars.
Yeah.
And Santana and Ortiz in particular have got a brilliant entrance there.
Yeah. And also, the one thing they could do, and not to get stuck on production values again, just turn them up a bit.
Which is what I think they've done, to be honest.
Just quite low in the audio mix. It's hard to sometimes, like Cody's is great.
Yeah.
You know, the Young Bucks' new one is cool, and I don't know, a lot of people have got good songs, but you just can't really hear them.
But there was a moment when Santana and Ortiz did a gory special, a Boston Crab, and a camel clutch at the same time. Like that.
JR was just, for God's sake!
It's nothing sacred! But this was great. But the real sort of key to this match was right at this, sort of in the end of the first third, maybe, is when Nick, doing his sort of like quick run around the ring, went to kick either Santana or Ortiz on the outside, and they dodged, and he kicked this ring post
like really hard,
so hard. Like I'm sure, like you smacked the top of it as well to add extra oomph to it. But it made such a noise, and it made me go, "Oh,
yeah!"
I feel my shin."
Like Family Guy.
Yeah, and that really set up everything for the rest of the match, because Nick's was selling the knee, or they're selling his shin, that he couldn't really stand up properly. There was a moment when they'd beaten up Matt so much, and they threw Matt into the corner to almost like challenge Nick's like tag in. Yeah, if you dare, like, because you're the one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest.
That was a weird moment where they all just sort of stopped wrestling for about 2 minutes.
But I liked that, because it was like they almost threw him and be like, dare you to get in.
Yeah.
And Nick fires up and he gets in and he makes this one-legged comeback, and it's absolutely brilliant. But when they set up to do the Meltzer driver, Nick falls and he crumbles because he can't do the big leap.
Yeah, it was a really good sell on that. The crowd really kind of went, oh, jeez. Yeah. Also, I like the fact that it really affected, like, the Young Bucks were trying to still do their style of the constant quick tags, constantly using that time you get, the sort of 10 seconds or whatever. And the fact that they kept being hampered in that, sort of forgetting it, having to like readjust, and that was giving time for Santana to come back in again. I just thought the way it actually affected their style, I thought was really cool and a really good way of really good at selling what they were each trying to do as well. It was brilliant.
And eventually Santana and Ortiz hit the street sweeper for the win. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was an absolutely brilliant match.
Yeah.
But the one thing we haven't actually mentioned is that at ringside was the Rock and Roll Express,
of course,
who Santana and Ortiz took out a couple of weeks ago for the tag title ceremony, and Sammy Guevara comes down to celebrate with Santana and Ortiz. They get a sock full of baseballs. I like this because Excalibur says like, "Oh my god, I got a sock full of baseballs," and JR goes like, "How do you know?"
Yeah, that was
like, come on, JR.
That was one of the oddest. Like, what a weird time to start picking up on stuff.
How could you possibly know that? Because it's wrestling, and he's got notes in front of him. Come on, play along, JR. But then Robert Gibson and Ricky Morton get involved. Now, I've heard you laugh at a lot of things in my lifetime. Like, over the years that I've known you, I've heard you laugh at a lot of things, uproariously so. You and I have played...
We've had a happy time.
We've played so... the Dungeons & Dragons adventures we've gone on, we've had quite the laughs and quite the japes. I've never heard you laugh so hard when Ricky Morton hit the Canadian Destroyer.
Oh my god. It's one of the best things I've seen in wrestling for some time. Because also, this is me, because one huge bugbear I've got with wrestling at the minute, I can't stand it when old wrestlers come back. It really annoys me. I just think they get in the way. I think they take shine off other talent. I think it's worse than a waste of time.
Yeah.
And then so they get in, I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. Can't wait to watch two old guys slowly remember how to punch in a wrestling match. This will be boring. And then that happened. I was like, what the hell? It's just like, what? It was great.
So funny. I loved it. And now I want to see the Rock and Roll Express versus Santana and Ortiz. I want to see that at the next pay-per-view.
They're like, they have to sort of, but only if they can sort of banjo and kazooie it with the Jacksons. So it's like all four of them, but they're sort of attached. So each member of the Rock and Roll Express,
I like we're using that as a verb now.
yeah, each Rock and Roll Express gets one member of the Young Bucks.
Yeah.
To sort of act as their hold the ropes open, push them around.
Because Morton also did a big dive as well. It was insane, absolute insanity, and I loved it.
Yeah, I thought it was really good.
Speaking of things that were really good, Hangman Page took on Pac next. I thought this was the best of the encounters they've had in their time in AEW, including the WrestleGate match, which I thought was really, really good, and then the match that they had in the first episode of Dynamite, and this one here. I think they've had another match somewhere down the line as well, but I thought this was the best match that these two have had.
Yeah, I actually think considerably so. I think the first one they had on Dynamite actually was quite disappointing, ultimately. On a night that also had some other great stuff as well. But yeah, I thought this was by far their best. You know what? I can see I could see they've really actually developed a chemistry that was slightly lacking before, and I think this had a real, everything from Pac's pump kicks the whole time. They were all landing so crisp. The pair of them are so good at landing that stuff.
Yeah.
That actually they should work brilliantly together. It's a shame they haven't quite found it so far. But then I thought this match, they really hit their stride.
Really, really so, yeah. Lots of reversals, lots of back and forth action. And it ended with Pac getting the win with the Deadeye. I thought the match was absolutely brilliant. And also it played into the previous stories which they've told, which is the low blow. It's how Pac's always been getting out of their matches or has been using it to cheat in their to get victories and stuff. So Pac distracts the referee so he can do the low blow. Page, seeing it coming, catches it, and that's when he gets to hit the Deadeye for the win. There was a really, really smart finish to it. And I do want to... so Salty JR was in effect in this match where he was talking about, I don't like seeing Hangman do high-flying stuff. It was when he did this big dive to the outside and he did the moonsault. And JR was like, he shouldn't be doing that.
Now, this is interesting also because he loves Pac because he's a WWE guy. So there was a weird thing of sort of a love-hate he was going on.
But I actually liked this side of Salty JR because it made sense in what he was saying. His point was not, I think it is dumb that he does this. He was saying it was almost like a coaching perspective.
Yes.
To be like, your strength is in your Stan Hansen brawling. It's in your fall-away slams. It's in the punches and the kicks that you do. You doing high-flying moves is an unnecessary risk that you've added to your repertoire unnecessarily. And I thought it was actually really good commentary by JR to kind of call that out and to be like, because I thought it was made a really interesting point.
Because also quite early on the match, I think they were having a sort of similar discussion, but about Pac, and they said, I think it actually might have been Excalibur who said the line, but said how Pac's size can sometimes be an advantage and sometimes be a disadvantage. And they were just explaining the matchup in those terms.
Yeah.
I thought was brilliant commentary and also was matching up with what you were seeing as well. Hangman trying to hang with Pac, who is the ultimate high flyer, was for a while a bad decision.
Yeah, totally. It was a really, really good match. Loved the big fall-away slam off the top rope by Page as well. Oh, man. Guy's got such incredible strength.
He's such a great athlete, Hangman, as well. I know, obviously, Pac kind of can really throw himself around, but also, Hangman's so strong.
Yeah. And apparently as well, Page suffered a stinger during the match as well.
Really?
It was in the post-media scrum. It's in my news today. He said that he almost lost all feeling in his right arm. And you can see actually watching back in the match, he's constantly doing this. He's constantly trying to feel his fingers and be trying to almost get that blood back into your arm. So actually, full credit to him. That he managed to
where did he get the stinger then? Did he
he didn't say, but he just said that he goes, I was really, I got a stinger during the match. Apparently also he got a ruptured eardrum on Wednesday from Sammy Guevara. So he was wrestling the match partially deaf. That's how good Page is. But it's also quite funny as well. They kept calling this the rubber match. But this coming Wednesday on Dynamite, it is Page versus Pac in the rubber match. So
this is double rubber.
Yeah, it's double rubber. Sometimes you've just got to stay safe. It's been in your wallet for some time. You don't know. I don't know how long these things last for.
No, you've got to double the rubber.
Yeah. So we're getting a rematch of this coming Wednesday on Dynamite.
Do you want to see them wrestle again? I think I'm okay for now.
Because they've got one win apiece.
Sort of have to.
You sort of like to get a deciding win in there. So kind of, yeah.
And they're also playing, because Hangman's on a bit of a streak, isn't he? Has he hasn't lost a singles match, has he?
Not a singles match. He's lost tag matches, but he hasn't lost a singles match. Yeah. They've been really they've been building that up as well, that he is starting to like find his stride again since losing to Jericho at All Out for the championship. We've got a recap of the Awesome Kong angle from the buy-in. And then we got Shawn Spears versus Joey Janela in a good match.
The Shawn Spears' entrance suggested something much grander than just the next match on the card. Which I thought the crowd were a bit confused by that. They went, oh,
because the lights go out and everything. Like, oh my god, what's coming next? It's Shawn Spears having to sit down.
I don't know whether it's intentional or not, obviously from when they first started, but I would personally have him not cosplay as Cody Rhodes.
Okay.
With his gear.
Yeah.
They sort of like...
They got very similar
gear.
Yeah.
It was a good match.
Good match. Yeah, I did enjoy it, actually. I thought Joey Janela was really good because they were putting over the idea that he's more than just a hardcore guy, folks.
I like that.
He can do the wrestling, and he really held his own in this. But really his downfall was Tully Blanchard at ringside. And I thought they did some really smart distracting of the referee.
Yeah, they did.
And it was Earl Hebner as well, the world's worst referee, because he's so easily distracted. Yeah. He's the weakest referee as well in the world. It's like one light tap and he's down for hours until that pinfall needs to be counted.
Yes.
But he's so easily distracted. He's running around the ring trying to like stop Tully, and then he's trying to stop Shawn. But in the end, Tully distracted him enough that Shawn could go and remove a ring pad, one of the turnbuckle pads. So Earl got distracted by putting that back up, and in the process, they gave Janela the spike pile driver on the outside. Tully and Shawn did, and then Shawn hit the DVD for the win, which was the C4. I thought it was a really great finish.
Yeah. Also, I think it's quite cool to have. It's so specific, but the manager actually come and actually have a sort of do a real move that actually should be the win, like actually part of the finish, and almost like have a. Yeah. You know, so often managers don't do anything, or they just do a punch, or they do a small thing. I thought it was quite cool to actually have. No. Let's do a spike pile driver.
Yeah.
And it's something also that anyone could do. Just jump and do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought it was really. I thought the use of Tully was brilliant in this.
I thought it was. I thought that was really good. Good match. I thought it was a great finish though. And it's a much needed win for Shawn Spears as well, because I can see now in hindsight why, but I thought him losing to Cody at All Out was a mistake, because I felt like you really wanted to kind of build him up.
Yeah,
only to have him sort of lose in his first big match.
I think so, especially as, that match, it had so much to, especially with obviously the chair thing. That they presented as if it was like the end of a year-long feud when it hadn't been. I think you're right. I think that was a mistake, and it has sort of set Spears back in a way.
I thought it did, yeah.
And I remember watching it, thinking, I was like, as he came out, I was like, I forgot this match was happening. I was just trying to found myself sitting there thinking, where does this sit in the, because AEW doesn't really have much. It's their hierarchy is slightly strange. It's not as defined as, whereas this is like, okay, these guys are.
Your mid card.
This is your mid card, and I was like, okay, that makes sense to me now.
Yeah.
Whereas before, it's a shame that so quickly Shawn's kind of gone from there to the mid card so quickly.
That's it. It was so quickly. So I thought it was a much needed win for him. As I said, in hindsight, Cody winning made sense because you want to build him on that momentum to get to this match here at Full Gear.
And also because Janela's got such a defined space that he normally exists in, he can take the loss.
Yeah.
And it not really affect him as much.
Yeah, totally.
Because he's kind of doing his own thing. So I thought that was smart booking.
And speaking of Janela, Golden Boy was backstage interviewing Kip Sabian. Our boy Kip Sabian. Kip says, he goes like, "Oh, you interviewing me?" He said, "Yeah." He goes, "What's your name?" "Golden Boy." I won't remember that. I mean, his name's Golden Boy. How could you possibly forget that? But yeah, so Kip's now trying to sort of establish a character for himself here in AEW. He says that it's time for a change and needs an alliance. He's now with Penelope Ford, who is his real life girlfriend, who was the former real life girlfriend of Joey Janela. So,
of course, yeah.
So I believe that they are setting up a feud between Sabian and Janela now, based off this sort of real world not heat between them, but sort of like real life drama between the three of them. But yeah, so he now announced that
maybe we are gonna have a death match sooner than we thought.
Well, no, we're getting Penelope Ford on a forklift.
On a pole match.
On a pole match, yeah. They're the Superbad squad. It's time to bring some real sex appeal to this company of losers. And Ford this is where she says, like, why be bad when you can be super bad? As a reference to the bad boy Joey Janela. So yeah, I thought it was a good promo by Kip, actually.
Yeah, it felt a little. I don't think he was quite wearing that hat as comfortably as you'd want. It didn't seem.
Oh, I thought he did. I liked it.
I thought it was good. Yeah. I didn't sort of quite buy in fully to that, I must admit.
Okay, that's interesting.
But I'm all for people trying out new characters.
Yeah.
I think especially when your character has just been like, I'm a super good wrestling guy. And Superbad is a good nickname. And it kind of makes sense. So yeah, I think I'm not like out on it or anything. But I was like, okay, I see what you're trying to do. And the only thing I kind of thought was like, oh well, don't a lot of people sort of have this character, including Joey Janela?
Yeah.
So that's one thing. He's going to bump up against a lot of people sort of doing the same bit.
Being the super cool.
Yeah.
A bit of aloof, which is what Jericho's doing as well.
Yeah.
No, I can see what you're saying.
It's a crowded field of sort of sexy rock and rollers.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. I think I'm just glad to see Kip Sabian get some TV time.
That's much more important to me because he's amazing.
Yeah, he's really, really good. Up next, we got Private Party versus the Lucha Brothers versus SCU for the AEW Tag Team Championships. SCU the champions. Lucha Brothers came second in the tournament, so they got another bite of the apple here. And Private Party beat Dark Order to win the third place spot in the tournament, which got them a shot into this match as well.
Can I just say, first of all, off the top of this, I don't think the first proper pay-per-view defense of the title should have been a triple threat.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah.
I thought that was a bit of a mistake.
Yeah.
Why have the tournament if you're just going to throw someone else in there in the first?
I agree with that to a certain degree. I think in storyline it made sense with the fact that they kind of did this sort of third place spot. And I'm not saying it makes sense in the terms of that's what I would have done, but I think in terms of justifying why you've done it, I think it makes sense. But it's not what I like you. I think I'd have just rather had SCU versus Lucha Brothers again.
Yeah.
I
think so.
As the top contenders.
Maybe with some sort of other stipulation just to separate it. But I wouldn't do anything crazy.
No.
And
not the ladder match.
Yeah.
Bloody hell. I'm not sure my heart could take it. But this was set up because there were three teams, but it was always one-on-one. But what I really liked about this match was how they were working the idea that why would you tag out to another team?
Yes.
So I thought they actually set that up really well. So it would be like Mark Quinn would be trying to get to Isaiah Cassidy, but Isaiah Cassidy would be taken out by a member of SCU. So then Quinn has to tag out because he can't stay in the match. So it's actually better to tag out and reserve your energy so you can tag in later. So you just tag in another team. I thought they actually did a really smart way of laying out the match.
Yeah, and particularly the Mark Quinn one was done with like a real reluctance. And that's when they really sold that moment. I thought it was really smart. But
my standout person in this match was Rey Fenix.
Oh my God. He's unbelievable.
One of my notes here is, how does he do the flips he does?
Yeah.
And then he did another one, and I've written in all caps, how does he do the flips he does?
The thing about Phoenix as well is, yes, his moveset is just god tier.
Yeah.
But also I just think everything he does everything's so fast and just sort of whip sharp and
fluid.
It's just the accuracy. Does he have as much personality as his brother, as Penta? Maybe not, but he's also not trying to portray a character in the same way that Penta is. But he's one of the best workers in the world, and he's in that top tier. It was easily for me. He's unbelievable.
He is. Yeah, he's just so good. But the end of the match was we had a shooting star press by Mark Quinn for the near fall. SCU blocked Gin and Juice and hit the SCU later for the win. Fun match. It wasn't it wasn't as good as the Bucks versus Santana and Ortiz in terms of tag team action on that show. But it's just, once again, that's 5 teams you've got in your tag team division, as well as some of the other teams that aren't featured on this, like Jungle Express, and you've got the Angelico and Jack Evans, best friends. And you're like, what a stacked tag team division this company has got.
Yeah.
But it was a fun match. Then afterwards, the Lucha Brothers attacked SCU, and Penta went to do the Pentagon Driver, but the lights went out. When they came back up, he was seeing double. I'm seeing 4 Pentagon Juniors. eventually takes off the mask. He hits the Angel's wings, and it's like, oh my god, it's Christopher Daniels. And it was Daniels with like the Pentagon smile on him, but he also had the Fallen Angel logo
crucifix thing. Yeah,
absolutely. It's cool to see the Fallen Angel. I don't know if this is now like this is the return of the Fallen Angel, Christopher Daniels.
This was going to be my question because I thought because the Fallen Angel was a heel in TNA, went like the peak of the Fallen Angel.
Yes,
it was definitely a heel. So I was fully expecting him to also turn and leave SCU. And then he didn't. And he just sort of, it was just more of a callback, which I'm actually slightly disappointed by. I was actually like, oh.
I'm curious to see on TV if this is just, oh yeah, he just did that because it kind of ties in nicely with the Pentagon sort of like face paint, or if it is, yeah, the Fallen Angel's here now. Yeah. And that's going to cause some ruptures within SCU, and he might fracture off away from them. Yeah.
But if that was going to happen, it had to happen right there and then.
I think you can play it out. I think you can delay that storyline and almost have like Kazarian and Scorpio Sky trying to coax Daniels out of the Fallen Angel persona.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Okay,
and so you kind of like you save the leaving of SCU for down the line. Yeah. Like you can play them like they're all on the same page for the moment, but he is fracturing away. Yeah. And he is the eldest one of the group. He is the one with the most tenure. Are we leading to Daniels stepping away from the team to be like, no, you guys are the future of this team, so you you be at the forefront. I can just go off and do my own thing, and eventually, have my retirement match, or a retirement match against Kazarian.
Yeah, that would be that would be very cool. Slightly bemused by the choice to have somebody just dress up as Penta again.
Yeah, because they did it all in last year.
I feel like everyone who attacks Penta has dressed up him at some point. I'm assuming it's because they obviously got when like Jericho did it. Jericho did it.
He did it to attack Omega. Yeah.
So they obviously got that suit made, and they must just still have it.
No, it was so the story.
But if you're going to do the lights out, he doesn't just put the lights on and have it be Christopher Daniels there. He's already stood there. Yeah, you don't need to do a second reveal.
Yeah, I think they did the reveal to be a bit fun with it. But yeah, you're right. I thought actually you could have just had Daniel standing there, and it might have actually had a bigger effect.
I think it would have had a better
because there was an audible crowd confusion when they were just staring at these two Pentagon Juniors.
Yeah, and it also, I guess that makes sense because it was the pile drive and all that kind of stuff. Fine, his deal is with Pentagon, but I thought that was just that was what you might call a hat on a hat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear you. So we have just fantasy booked that out the wazoo. It might just be that Daniels is back with SCU, and that was done as a nice nod. So So we'll see when we get to TV, I guess. For the AEW Women's Championship, we had Riho versus Emi Sakura. Good video package about this being student versus teacher. Mm-hmm. It was simple, effective stuff. Crowd were massively into Riho for this. Excalibur said this is the 268th match between these two people. And it's actually a 50-50 win-loss for both of them. Wow. So some nice stats going into this match from our boy Excalibur. Dave Meltzer said in his review that he thought this was the best women's match in North America in 2019, along with Io versus Candice from NXT TakeOver, the last one. I don't agree with that at all. I thought with that. Io versus Candice was far and away superior to this. I thought this was a good match, don't get me wrong, but I thought it was a good match. Yeah, as opposed to it being like one of the best women's matches in 2019.
This didn't stand out to me as a particularly noteworthy.
No, I just thought it was good. It was solid stuff.
It wasn't necessarily even the sort of third or fourth best match on this card.
Yeah, completely.
And again, it was not a bad match. It was a very good match actually, and a really enjoyable match. I found it slightly confusing in that it's quite difficult. Maybe this has happened a few times with AEW and they'll get more into the groove of this as they go. But it's hard to necessarily. It's the bouncing between heel and face in a slightly strange way with this one. She's coming out. She's really fun. She's dressed as Freddie Mercury. She just sort of.
She didn't.
Yeah. And then she does some really fun spots, some silly spots, and then she does loads of. And it felt like that was her doing her stuff. But then when they were doing like the match, she was like aggressive. Trying to teach her a lesson like that. When the moments where she went into the fun stuff, Sakura, I didn't enjoy it as much, but when it got to those moments as grooves where she was being like Riho was trying to make the comeback and she was like just really being vicious, I thought that the match really clicked at that moment. I know obviously that works well with Riho because she's so good at playing that role, but yeah, those points in the match I thought really worked, and the fact that any match that has those kind of that bit worked, that bit was not so great, that bit worked, those are your classic good but not great matches.
Yeah, completely. I agree with that. I thought it was good. I really enjoy Riho's like roll through stomps. She just seems to find new ways to do them.
The one on the apron early on was brutal.
Really, really good stuff. I think for me, the reason why I think I'm slightly down on this match more than is perhaps necessary is because I don't think that Emi Sakura should have been the number one contender. It just felt like it just sort of
kind of came out of nowhere, really.
Yeah, it just sort of felt like this was announced out of nowhere. Like she has been on TV, but in a tag match where she lost, and then I think they just announced the match, and then she got a win. I think she might have got a win on Dark to kind of set that up. But I just felt like the fact that Britt Baker's been featured on TV so much, surely it felt like she should have been set up as the number one contender, which you could have got around if you wanted to say like, no, I am the number one. Like I'm going for the number one contendership, but I'm so preoccupied with B. Priestley. Granted, I think, and actually Britt's already lost sort of like a number one, she'd already lost a championship match to Riho. I think they did on the TV. But you could have got around that by saying like, I'm so preoccupied with B. Priestley to further that storyline to build into this pay-per-view match. It just felt like, I don't think Emi Sakura was the right contender here, other than it being a student versus teacher thing.
And in direct contrast to what we were just saying about their tag division, they've actually generated with the women's division a solid sort of contendership base, but they're actually so preoccupied with each other that Riho hasn't really got anyone to wrestle. So they've just this is I guess this had an immediate and compelling story. But you're right. I think in the slightly broader scope, I don't think it actually worked as a kind of, particularly if we're going to do, and this is this has been my issue with the we're going to do sport wins and losses thing from the start, which is that as soon as you say that, this is the sort of thing you are going to get, you're going to struggle with. Yeah. So it kind of made, coming away from this match particularly, I kept thinking, I keep talking about wins and losses. It'd be better if they just talked about rankings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If it was just rankings, there was some system made up that they came up with.
Which they're doing at the moment. They're doing the power rankings.
Exactly. But I think really tying it specifically to the wins losses, it's already sort of put them into a couple of corners they've got away with. Mm-hmm. But it does add an air of complicatedness, which isn't necessary. And this was a match that I think kind of illustrated that point very well.
I think the AEW's problem with their women's division is that WWE signed everyone.
There is that.
And so it's WWE for the Mae Young Classic and sort of beyond, because they're pushing their women's evolution, hoovered up all of the unsigned talent from the independent scene. I'm just like, I'll have, not even like, I'll have you. They weren't hand-picking people. They just got a vacuum out and were just like, and just picked up every single, loads of people just got sucked up into the system. And so what AEW left with is just like, okay, well, who are the unsigned talents that we can get hold of?
Yeah.
And they have got, I've said this on previous WrestleTalk Lives, they've got these foundations of a solid division that they can build upon, but it is going to take some time to build it up. Whereas at the moment, their men's division and their tag team divisions are already set and established.
Yeah, and also I think, as has happened with other parts of WWE, I think they've obviously overstocked, particularly on the women's side and their developmental side. And I do think you'll see a few of them maybe in the next year or so start to maybe drift away or get dropped off. And then they'll kind of find their way to AEW maybe. But I think you're right. I think it's going to be a while, I think, before we really see that fleshed out. And it's a shame because I know that particularly Kenny is obviously so invested in, and obviously like part of their answer was, well, let's just concentrate on the Joshi girls. And I do think that you do get, I've seen on like Twitter and stuff, some complaints about the way AEW has developed its women's division. And I do think that you're right, that actually a lot of the reason they've struggled is because the talent has just not really been available. And I think they would love to push it more, but they don't really have that strong,
they haven't got a
7
name
deep.
they haven't got that big name to hang the hat on. I think in their women's division at the moment. But as I said, I think they've got strong foundations that they can build upon. But, maybe getting someone like Tennille Dashwood in, or getting Mercedes Martinez. They've just signed Big Swole. So they are signing names. And Tony Khan did say in the post-media scrum that they are looking to sign more women wrestlers to add to their division, or more wrestlers to add to their women's division, I should say.
And this is also all the more reason to have put a Britt Baker match on the main show as well. If you're already light, give it more presence.
Exactly.
To make up for that,
Yeah, completely. And for the AEW Championship, we had Cody versus Chris Jericho, which had an amazing video package, which told us great story. I have loved the build to this match.
Yeah.
And it's Ollie and I have said this sort of throughout the weeks since AEW, since Dynamite's launch. When they first announced that the headline match of Full Gear was going to be Cody versus Chris Jericho, I went, that's a bit disappointing. It's just Cody, just being into the sort of main position. Yeah, he's got all the wins to put him into that position, but I'm not really feeling this match. But the build that they have done for this has completely turned me around to the point where Cody is now one of my favorite guys in AEW. He's my favorite babyface, and I desperately want to see him win, and I desperately wanted to see him win this match. That promo he did on last week's show was one of the... When I got back and I said, I've missed a few things, The Fiend winning the Universal title, everyone said, go watch Cody's promo.
Yeah.
It was one of the first things I watched back from of wrestling after 2 weeks off. It's just... It was incredible.
I mean, they basically had, I'm going to say viral, but I don't mean viral. I mean viral in the wrestling community, I guess. The fact that the two biggest things that were going around that everyone was sending each other and talking about were Cody's promo and Jericho's video package.
Yes.
To have the two things go viral that are actually promo for the same match.
Yeah. It's a win-win.
Yeah, it's that's incredible. I really bought into it. Cody, I feel now, has really found this kind of big match. They're almost like these sort of. He's like a sort of auteur director of these big matches, and he can really. They're quite unique to him now, I think.
Yeah.
And it's something that I think, particularly for AEW, is really helping them. Is the fact that he's putting together these sort of epics. Are they like the greatest matches of all time? No, but they're not supposed to be. They're a different thing. They're all narrative from start to finish, and particularly with someone like Jericho, who obviously isn't physically what he was before. This is exactly the sort of match he should be doing with exactly the sort of athlete that he should be doing it with. I thought it was, I like you have not been as into Cody as a lot of other people, but I've totally on board from
this is
weeks.
Easily Jericho's best match in AEW. Easily his best match in AEW. And that I think that is a lot of that is down to Cody. And I think is how good Cody is at telling these stories. If you'd have told me at the start of 2019 that one of my favorite matches this year would be Cody versus Dustin, I'd have told you were crazy. Because I thought that match would be, at best, fine. I thought it would be really good, actually, because they're both they're both great wrestlers. I thought, even if they didn't try, they would still have a really good match.
Yeah.
But they actually put on one of my favorite matches of all time, and it was just stunning. And that was when I really started to turn a corner on Cody, being like, oh my God, this is incredible. Then he had the match with Darby Allin, his great match with Sammy Guevara. But all of the great build that they've done for this match had got me so invested that I was enraptured by this whole match.
Yeah.
I was absolutely enthralled by everything. So Cody came out, huge amount of pyro for Cody.
That was cool.
Yeah, MJF was out there with him. Jericho has got Hager in his corner. This is a joke stolen from someone on Twitter. I do apologize, but they have sent me this a couple of times and it's made me laugh every single time, which is that Jake Hager always looks like he's just finished his Giacomo photo shoot.
Yes.
They introduced Cody.
He's just one of the lads.
They introduced Cody as the grandson of a plumber and the father of a husky. I thought it was some really, really nice stuff, this. But really, the key to this match was right at the start, which was when Cody did this big dive to the outside. And they had sort of this sort of entrance ramp. It wasn't like a sloping entrance ramp. It was flat to the ring. And so Cody did this dive to the outside onto Jericho, but Jericho moved out of the way and Cody just spiked himself into the ground.
Yeah.
And it looked like it sucked.
Yeah.
And he came up bleeding like a stuffed pig.
And I thought at the start, because the way Jericho kind of went towards the camera, I thought that was perhaps intentional sort of block.
Yeah.
And I thought he was, when he came up bleeding, I thought, oh, okay, he's landed like this and then and then bladed. But then quite quickly you see, no, he's just got this massive bruise all around here that gets worse and worse throughout the match. Like, he really brained himself on that.
The photo is gross.
Yeah.
So the AEW posted up a picture because apparently he's also not been cleared to wrestle this week, and it looks gross. Obviously, this was a planned spot for him to hit it hard, but I think he hit it super duper hard.
Yeah.
This is also in my news today, but Mike Johnson of PW Insider said that apparently the match was nearly called off. The doctor had to make the decision: is he okay to still continue? And he made the call. Yeah, he's okay.
I mean, this is twice now in very recent memory Cody has taken massive hits to the head. And, I'm all for, the level of wrestling nowadays is just unparalleled to what it's been before, frankly. It's incredible where you can go to almost any promotion, any indie, in front of 40 people, and you'll see some pretty top quality stuff.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And I just think it's totally okay that we just shouldn't accept people getting smashed in the head anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see it. I don't like seeing it. I don't want Cody to be knocked out all the time,
And that bump, way more dangerous than anything that Omega and Moxley did in their match.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, people saying that match went too far. I think everything they did there was completely safe. But that spell with the big dive that Cody did, like, he just completely brained himself.
But also, this is the problem with that specific dive, is you have to pitch forward.
Yeah.
You're gonna land like a missile. There's no way of not doing it unless you actually flip.
Yeah.
I don't know why they didn't. They had to have come up with some other way of doing it. I don't know. I was not a fan of the actual... The more I think about it, the more the spot was only ever going to end up with him doing that.
Yeah. But then the visual of it was really good. As you said, like, coming up and he was just bleeding absolutely, like, profusely. It was a really, really striking visual. And it then told a great story for the rest of the match. So I think like the planned spot is fine. It's just that I think that he did land harder than was probably intended, which is why, as you say, he came up and it was just bruised like anything. And it's just got worse over time. But some really, really good stuff in this match. As I said, I thought this match was absolutely fantastic. We had a moment when he went to, almost like he was setting up to do the disaster kick, but instead hit a diamond cutter.
Yeah.
And Excalibur was like, what a loving tribute to Diamond Dallas Page, which I thought was really nice. Mama Rhodes was at ringside. She slapped Chris Jericho.
Yeah. A couple times. She went in for a second one.
All right, Mum.
She went in for seconds and the crowd got a big pop out of it.
There was also a bit that Excalibur really made me laugh, which is when Cody does this big bicycle kick and Excalibur called it a bicycle kick.
His 46-inch bicycles.
So that was really funny. Jake Hager got involved in this. He tried to there was some distraction from there, and so Hager shoved Cody, and then Cody sent Jericho into Hager, just a roll up by Cody. Then he kicked out. That allowed Hager to punch him. Nice, simple, sort of like good psychology-based wrestling stuff. And then Aubrey Edwards ejects Hager from ringside. The crowd go nuts for it as well.
The one thing I did think about this was it really looked like that Aubrey was very much plain view of her, the punch.
Yes.
That should have been... which is
why
I know we don't like nitpicking, but that should have been a disqualification.
But, I will argue in AEW's defense here, because later on in the match, Jericho was wearing a weight belt.
I was going to bring this up as well.
Well, Jericho's wearing this weight belt as a way to kind of like take the piss out of Cody, because Cody's got the Nightmare Family weight belt that he likes to use. And Jericho had one made, and they point out in commentaries like he had this made especially for this match as a way to make fun of Cody. And Jericho takes this off at one point and he starts whipping Cody with it right in front of the referee. Now, normally I would say well, surely that's a DQ. But in this instance, I do think this is in line with the argument of it is ref's discretion. And the commentators put over a lot that Aubrey Edwards does not want this match to end in DQ, particularly because Cody cannot challenge for the title if he loses.
Okay.
So Aubrey Edwards, as a character, does not want to end this match with BS, because that kind of screws Cody out. And so I think that I thought it actually worked within the confines of the story, and I thought it made Aubrey Edwards look as a really good, credible referee, because she got the belt out of it and was like, I'm not having it go down this way. I'm not going to DQ you, but I'm also not having you use this weapon either to throw it out the ring.
Okay.
And which is why I thought it was also good that she ejected Hager when she did.
Yeah. No, yeah, okay. Yeah, I agree with that.
Oh, cool. I'm glad I can change your mind.
But great. It'd be pretty cool if we're talking sort of 3 years' time, and particularly with the sport element of the thing, if they're talking about how important ref selection could be for a big title match, this ref tends to be a bit more like this.
They actually did that in this. They said that at the start of this match. They said that. I've forgotten the lad's name now. The bald ref that they've got.
Oh, the younger one.
Yeah, they said they.
Rick Knox. Rick Knox. Right.
Rick Knox. They said that he is better suited to tag teams because he's good at managing multiple levels of people, whereas Aubrey Edwards is better suited to these one-on-ones, which is why she's always picked for these big matches. She's like their lead referee for like the big title matches and things like that. And I think Earl Hebner is picked for if there's a manager on the outside that he can easily get distracted by. Like, that's where he is best suited to. And then eventually Jericho grabbed the title belt because Hager attacked MJF on the outside. Jericho grabbed the belt and he hits Cody with it. Big late kick out by Cody. He dodges the Judas effect and hits the crossroads for an amazing near fall. He then fires up and does the dusty punches and the bionic elbow. Here's a disaster kick, which is reversed into a code breaker for another amazing near fall. That's when we get the weight belt bit. And then Jericho... Cody hit a top rope Hurricane Rana. Well, he tried to, and then Jericho reversed that into the walls of Jericho. Crowd was so into Cody getting out of it, and he made it out. Cody gets another near fall, but then Jericho locks in the walls again, and he's stomping on their heads.
Yeah.
And then really, really locks it in. And you can hear MJF on the outside screaming for Cody to get out of it. And in the end, MJF threw in the towel for Cody Rhodes, which I thought was an amazing finish. For several reasons, but my favourite reason as to why this was an incredible finish is it was the finish that no one saw coming. When everyone has been booking and kind of like giving out their ideas of what you could do in terms of the Jericho or the Cody stipulation, I'm not going to challenge for the world title again if I lose. So everyone's like, okay, if he's not going to win, maybe you could do this, maybe you could do this, maybe you could do this, Cody does this, blah, 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 blah. The one thing I never saw anyone say was MJF throws in the towel for him.
Yeah, I think I think I would have liked to have seen it. To me, they didn't do it wasn't locked in long enough with enough other camera angles of how much pain and exhaustion Cody was going through.
I hear that.
So in the moment, it was out of nowhere for sure, and would have been anyway. But in that moment, I didn't quite feel I'd been sold into that possibility, enough at that point. So it kind of, it must admit, in the moment, I was a bit like, oh, okay.
It's not as good as when Mustache Mountain did it with the Undisputed Era.
Yeah, that was worked really well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was. I did enjoy the finish.
I thought it was a really, really great finish. And then afterwards, Cody is pissed off at MJF, and MJF is just like on his knees begging for forgiveness and just keeps saying, "I'm so sorry." But Cody comes around to this realization of being like, "Look, the kid did the right thing. I'm his mentor. I've got to respect the decision that he made, even though I now cannot challenge for the belt." And then MJF kicks him square in the dick and does a big old heel turn, even though he's already a heel, and gets some fantastic heel heat for it. This was a brilliant, brilliant closing match angle. He just bathed in the heat that he was getting. Someone threw a full pint at him.
Yeah. And he just took it.
I don't care if that was a plant or not. I
don't care either.
Absolutely don't care. It was an amazing visual. I thought it was so good. Ollie and I have been talking about how I'd have held off on the MJF heel turn for a little while. And, even after they've done it, I still wish they'd waited another 6 months, 8 months. I would have liked to have seen Cody versus MJF at All Out 2. It's like one of your big marquee matches for All Out 2.
Yeah.
And you could probably still get there at this point, but I'd have done the turn at Double or Nothing 2 to then set up All Out 2.
Yeah, I guess the slight issue they have, isn't it? It's like, because they'd really built this up, quite literally, this was going to be Cody's biggest match in AEW, because if he lost, he was never going to challenge the title again. Mm-hmm. So in terms of how you'd consider the hierarchy of match, this was going to be so like, and he was putting everything on the line. So it's almost like, when are the stakes going to be higher again.
That's true. Yeah. You kind of had to do it now.
You sort of had to do it, yeah.
Yeah, I hear that, actually. Yeah, I didn't really consider that. So actually, that's a really good point. But I thought it was a great match. Really, really good. Another amazing outing for Cody. And as I said, I thought it was Jericho's best AEW match thus far. And it was really, really great. And then we got the Omega Moxley Lights Out main event. So overall, I thought this was a terrific pay-per-view.
Yes.
I thought from start to end, the only matches where I was like, but even then I was like, oh man, it was still really good, was Shawn Spears and Joey Janela and the Women's Championship match. But everything else I just thought was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, and even those two, I agree with you. I think those two were the only things that weren't
on the same level as everything else. But when you're this high up...
Yeah, exactly. I still think those two matches were very enjoyable and really good matches. Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. I guess the only thing I came across to me, which I don't know why it's the case, but I don't feel like... particularly, so the Double or Nothing had a full set and all that kind of stuff. I know how expensive these things are, but it did look like Dynamite.
It had the gears and stuff. It wasn't as big as Double or Nothing.
It had pictures of gears. So it had some bits, which obviously that I know that's so much money to do with full sets and stuff. But I just thought even something as simple as could they've done something more with the colours, made everything more gold and brown or whatever. I don't know. I did feel like it lacked something in the presentation. I felt just lacked that. This thing is very big and important.
I hear that. Yeah, I hear that.
But I mean, in terms of what happened in the ring, and in terms of the actual show presentation, I thought it was fantastic.
And I saw Trevor Dame, who's a fantastic wrestling commentator on YouTube, on Twitter rather. He felt that it was just a big version of an episode of Dynamite, which I disagree with. Actually, I thought it was way bigger than just felt like an overlong episode of Dynamite. I thought it was this was pay-per-view level quality throughout.
Yeah, I do. I can. Yeah, so my sort of commentary on the presentation is kind of like, I think it looks too much like Dynamite, but it didn't feel like a longer Dynamite.
No,
it did feel big. I think they have done well, particularly with the way Cody builds to these matches.
Yeah,
It did feel like, the main matches that you were supposed to be excited about felt really big and really special and were for this one night only. I think they actually did a very good job of building that.
Completely agree with you. And I thought it was and actually I think come the end of the year we might look back on this as one of the best pay-per-views of the year actually.
Yeah, it's certainly up there.
Right, well, let's get into your super chats. We've got a few more on the title of this video about Kenny and Moxley. New Punk Rants, it says, did everyone forget that Moxley promised glorious violence? People didn't pay attention to his promo. I loved it and Full Gear. Welcome back, Luke. Thank you very much.
He also kept saying that in the match.
Yeah.
So he referenced his own promo.
And Excalibur kept bringing it up as well. Yeah. Jobber JJ says, popped for the Mousetrap reason, the Mousetrap board game. I always hated the Mousetrap board game.
Oh, I love Mousetrap.
It took forever to set up. By the time it was set up, I'm like, I can't be asked to play this anymore. But like now, in my 30s, if you presented me a board game that's got multiple pieces and it takes forever to set up, I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Let's do that. Dincy Noblet says, Moxley and Omega couldn't have prepared people more so for the controversy. I don't get. It's not my type of match, but for that type, I give it 5 stars. The beating Kenny gave Moxley might be nothing to what Renee gave him. Renee's Twitter commentary was so good, where it's like, hi, yes, hello, I don't like this. Nits N says, only problem with Moxley and Omega is there was no proper reason as to why they hate each other to demand such a violent match. The only thing was Omega teasing him about the MRSA or Mercer, which was on being the elite.
I think in the hype package
it was on there as well.
It was on there as well, but also Omega said, and I do agree with this actually, they didn't make more of this, is he kind of brought in him saying that he was better than everyone else in that other promotion, which is actually referencing a feud he has online with Seth Rollins. But I think, I agree with this. I don't think they did enough. They've not really done enough to go, well, what is it specifically about these two that what is their initial...
I think they did a lot of stuff leading into All Out. I thought they actually did quite a lot of work in that. Because after the match was cancelled, Kenny Omega cut that fantastic promo.
Yes.
Where he was like, you wanted to go to Japan and be Kenny Omega. You wanted to live the Kenny Omega life.
Yeah.
You wanted to do the G1. You wanted to do this. You wanted to do that. And what happened? You got a staph infection because you're not as good as I am.
Yeah.
And that's why he's then been going to do he went and did the unsanctioned match with Joey Janela on AEW Dark, because he wants to live the Jon Moxley life and show that not only am I better at you at being me, I'm also better than you at being you. And Moxley wants to, show that he should be the champion in this company and be one of the top guys, which is why he was so pissed off. This was an unsanctioned match that doesn't go on his win-loss records. I actually thought they did a really good job as to why this match was the way that it was and why they hate each other. For me personally, maybe it's not been enough on TV, but I think on AEW Dark and on the YouTube stuff leading into All Out, which is obviously before they got TV, I thought they actually did.
Yeah, I guess even in the high packages, they didn't really actually bring up a lot of that stuff. I think is probably the only thing. So the thing that's supposed to remind you of all that stuff, I don't think really hit that.
Yeah, actually, I think it's fair enough. Michael Howell says, I connected it, and that was good S words. On the subject of MJF, Sean Turner says, MJF heel turn was too soon in my eyes. It could have been easily played the notion that MJF was protecting Cody throwing in the towel, with Cody wondering did he do it to save him or never getting the belt. I agree, I think they could have held off on doing it for a while. Sterling Van says, MJF gives me hope for the world of heels. Yeah, he is sort of the only proper heel. And I've not really been a big fan of this sort of he's the heel, but I mean this is something I do think it's a wrestling thing. Heels, are they cheered or not? Blah blah blah. But I do think with him they've got something that actually does generate real heat. Yeah, and I think I'm glad. However, even if they could have done it, they could have held off and got a bigger pop for it. Maybe ultimately he's their ticket to we could actually get a monster heel on our hands here. Completely. Matthew Shields says, nice to see you again, Luke. Nice to see you, mate. Hope you had a great vacation. I did. I had tears in my eyes when Cody lost. I think MJF is now the most hated heel in wrestling. Completely. Yeah, really is. AEW Miscellaneous. This comes in from Mitchell Heffley, who says, that pay-per-view was the first AEW Dynamite event I've seen. I'm so happy with the pay-per-view. Oh, it was really, really good. Start Recording says, do you think Sean Spears should change his gimmick soon, since many people will move on from the chair shot to Cody at some point? I kind of have. I sort of agree with that. Yeah. I also think, he's supposed to be this, heel who hits people with chairs, but he has like bright pink gear and white boots, and I'm a bit confused by what... There is not a concentrated effort as to what he's actually trying to be at the minute, I think is the issue. Yeah. The chairman is a good gimmick. It is a good gimmick. But it does feel like, Cody seems to have well moved past it. And again, as we said earlier in the show, because he lost that match, he lost his first match under the chairman gimmick, it doesn't really feel like he's established himself as, I'm the chairman of this company. Yeah. Because you lost, mate. And then you lost a couple more times after that, and you're only now starting to get some wind under your belt. And also, was obviously never going to be allowed to use that chair in the same way again. Yeah. So it's like, you've already done that. Yeah. I do think that you need to sort of move on from that now, and King CJ says, number 1, welcome back, Luke. I missed you a lot. Thanks, mate. I missed all of you too. 2, do you think there will be a recorded match between the two? I'm assuming he means Moxley and Omega. And 3, who do you think will challenge Jericho now? Yes, I think that Moxley's win here will now set up a match on record between him and Omega, so it can go on their win-loss records. Which is funny that you've done the gimmick match to set up a straight one-on-one match. And to answer who should challenge Jericho next, that's a really good one. Yeah, I kind of wrote down that it seemed to me that they were sort of suggesting that Hangman is the sort of de facto number 1 because of his record and his power rankings as well. Yeah, I wonder if you could tie that into the match they've got on Wednesday to be like, not only is this the rubber match, it's also going to determine who is the next contender to Jericho. That makes the most sense to me. Yeah, me as well. Start Recording again says, do you think Orange Cassidy could get an underdog story leading to an AEW championship match at some point, and that's where we finally see him get serious? I'm going to say no, and I'm also going to say I don't think I want to see that. I think we need to see that. Maybe one day. Yeah. As the character grows. But I think at the minute they should just lean into this very hot character. He can have his own. AEW does have a great section of the roster which is doing these sort of slightly more ironic, funnier, interesting matches, and I think he's perfect for that. Maybe one day I'd like to see him kind of grow out of that, and every wrestler should reinvent themselves as they go, and I think he could be the guy that does that. But for now, I think
let's just enjoy it for now.
Yeah,
we don't need to do everything now.
Zach Icon Linda says B versus Brit was Brit's best match so far. So that's very interesting. Actually, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to try and watch it tomorrow morning, I think. Nitz said, with a very big donation, it says, how long can Janela keep taking losses without losing credibility? He's lost all of his major matches and soon may be becoming the losing hardcore guy.
I think that AEW has sort of created this sort of hardcore world in which like Janela it can be in there, can move in and out of there.
Jimmy Havoc,
Darby Allin can kind of move in and out of there. And I think that actually, because they can hold different places in the audience mind, I don't think it holds him back specifically as much as you'd think.
Yeah.
Despite the concentration on rankings, whatever, I think actually he's sort of immune to that a little bit. Not for long.
Yeah. No.
But for now, I don't think it's actually affected him. And he was he should have lost that match.
Yes, completely. No, I agree. I think he can take a number of losses under his belt, to be honest, and still retain that credibility because they always push him as like he wants to show that he can be that wrestler. So I'd like to see him do that storyline where he is, he finally gets that big win in a wrestling match. And now, with him moving on to not Chris Sabin from the Motor Machine Guns, Kip Sabian, rather. I think we might get that. Kratos' Forgotten Son said, hello, my friends, and welcome back, Luke. Thank you very much, Chris Petrell. I absolutely loved Full Gear. I do agree that both women's matches needed more build-up, and Shivani was missed. Still an amazing show. WrestleTalk for life.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Jerome Cabo said, it was awesome to see live in person my first pay-per-view. Oh, wow. That's
cool.
A good way to start off as well. Zach back in again to say Emi Sakura is like the tough Joshi veteran. Well, I honest to God, when she said I'm 43, I was like, balls.
Yeah,
no, bugger off.
So when she was being the tough Joshi veteran, I really enjoyed it. But there was too many moments in that match where she was also being, I'm the fun... silly person, and I think that's when that match struggled. That's when it lost its sort of mode, I think.
And he says here, Zach, that is, AEW Women's Division is less than 2 months old, but so is their tag team division, and their tag team division seems way more established. Yeah, and there's multiple storylines running on at the moment that are getting TV time. So I don't think just saying that it's the women's division is less than 2 months old is an argument to be made when their other divisions are also in the same boat and they are stratospheres ahead. Spider Dan Ikovic says, can we stop calling the Bucks the best tag team? With the no-sell injury and PNP losing their heat post-match, they need to make others more important. They did sell the injury, though. That was that led to the finish.
They did sell the injury. I think, you have to give credit where credit's due. The Young Bucks are in the top tier of tag teams in the world. They just are.
Yep.
Not a lot of people like that style, sure. But they just are. And I think it's kind of silly to kind of put them in any other place other than that. Even if you're not necessarily a big fan of them, I think you have to admit they are in that upper echelon.
Yeah, completely. Wild Panther says, think that WWF conditioned audiences for 5-minute 2K style matches. So when we get old school New Japan style, people like to pop it. I don't know if he means poo it. I love the pay-per-view and the stories. Oh, that was a great show.
Yeah.
Kratos Forgotten Son said, I was thrilled to see Jericho bring back the proper old school Lion Tamer again.
I did enjoy that, yeah.
I also wanted to say as well, I also was glad that he didn't have the spiked jacket and hat, because I think it makes him look like sad dad and his
makeup
rock band.
Is rubbish. Yeah.
Props to him for making the move rarer over the years. It feels special.
Oh, also in his entrance stuff, it was Le Champion instead of Painmaker.
Yeah.
I'm glad he's dumped that.
Reinventing himself once again. Mr. Nico said, what kind of dolt actually could not see an MJF heel turn coming because it wasn't built over the last several months? Sigh. No, I think everyone saw the heel turn coming. I think from day one. Like, everyone's seen the heel turn was coming.
It was the only thing that was ever going to happen.
Yeah, it was absolutely. But I think it was when it was going to happen. I think it was more the debate about it. Christopher May says, do you think the prices of pay-per-views will go down soon? $50 is a lot. This, I think, is a fascinating point.
Yeah, how much was it?
So it's $50. What I think is fascinating about this is that the network has spoiled us. Because back in the day, $50 was the price for every pay-per-view, and that was every month. So WWE at one point, I think they ran 15 pay-per-views in a year, and each one of those is $50.
Yeah.
But now, because they charge you $10 a month and you get, the 25 or whatever it is that they do throughout a year, when you then say it's now $50 for this show and we're doing them 4 times a year, people are like, whoa, that seems a bit steep. The network really has conditioned a new generation of wrestling fans to think the pay-per-view prices are too much.
Yes, and I do think it's also conditioned the audience, and even I don't think anyone's immune to it, is that it's taken the shine off pay-per-views as an event.
Yeah, completely.
They've done too many of them. They're too long. And yeah, I just think they've really spoiled the sort of shine a pay-per-view should get. And I think AEW are actually, even though I think that's obviously very expensive, but what they're asking for their audience is that they're only going to do it a couple of times a year.
4 times a year.
Now, I think it's someone that obviously going to increase that. But I think we're a long way off them doing, 20 plus, whatever WWE gets up to now. They're certainly not going to go to Saudi Arabia anytime soon. So yeah, I think I'm not against it. I actually think I support them in actually saying, no, this is the way. This is a better version of that. This is a better way of doing it. Asking less of our fans all the time. I think I actually kind of agree that they should commit to doing the opposite.
Yes, I completely agree. Jamie Lavin says, not going to lie, I want them to get Skrull, as is rumoured, and have him be a massive character. I was hoping that he would cost Cody Rhodes.
It's funny because that's the last of their group. He's the last big name, isn't he?
Completely is, yeah. In. And I think they will go. Depending on, Ring of Honor are throwing out money at the moment.
They are, and, I think he's a guy who holds a lot more WWE ambition than some of the other guys did. I think a bit more like Adam Cole was. Mm-hmm. Like Adam Cole wanted to go there. I think Skrull, I said before, that's kind of been his aim. So I don't know. I definitely think there'll be a bit of a bidding war between. I think it'll be between WWE and AEW. I don't think he'll sign again for ROH.
Well, and ROH will. I think it'll be certainly a 3-way war because ROH will certainly be doing everything they can to keep him and the rest of Villain Enterprises. So yeah, I think we'll certainly see a 3-way battle for him. King CJ says, another question just hit my mind. Do you think AEW can make a better version of Aces and 8 if they wanted to? They've got the Inner Circle. I don't think they need to have another.
And I like the Inner Circle actually as well. I think it's a good number for a group, just in terms of how many they've got. I think they've got everything they need. They've got obviously the charismatic leader, they've got the muscle, they've got the sort of upstart troublemaker kid, and they've got the solid tag team. I think it's sort of like the ideal. Yeah,
they just need if they can get a woman in there as well.
This is the thing. I think they that's where they need. Really, that's the thing. I kind of thought it'd be better if, Kong aligned herself with Jericho or someone rather.
Oh no, I think I like her being outside of that group. I think her and Brandy as a tandem.
Yeah, maybe right.
Yeah, I just the Brandy thing for me, the thing that's wound me up with Brandy in AEW has just been that she's been this heel character when she's with Awesome Kong, but then she comes out as the smiling baby face with Jericho, and you're like, well, which one are you?
Yeah,
you can't have it both ways. Like it works with MJF because MJF is a heel, but him and Cody are just friends.
Yes.
And so their dynamic works. And I suppose you can then say it works with Brandy, but then when she's doing those video promos where she's being like, when Cody said he was going to have the title match, we knew we were going to lose him for 2 months. You're being the sympathetic babyface character. And then on that same show, you're just like, no, I'm the mean bitch and this is my muscle. So it doesn't really work. But now I think if you can just separate the two and she doesn't come out with Cody, and she is just aligned with Awesome Kong, that's when I think it can completely work. WrestleTalk Miscellaneous. Nathan the Alpha Wolf says, I'm working so I can't say much, but I'm risking it all to say, welcome back, Luke. Lovely time with the boys. By the way, this is a great pairing of yourself and housemate Simon. Yeah, I think we've only ever done 1 or 2 videos together in this format.
That's true. It's because we, obviously in real life, can't stand each other.
Oh, yeah, no, totally. Yeah.
I think you're a disgusting human being. But, we seem to do well.
Yeah. I actually was really chuffed when your character in D&D died. And I'm also glad that it was mostly my fault.
Yeah. I had it coming.
Kyo Sai says, what song did you use for the Mecha News today? Now, so this is a fun fact for people. This has only ever been really talked about in our Patreon stuff. I don't choose the songs. That's our editor who does the videos. He picks the anime songs that go underneath my Mecha News intro. I often don't know what they are, but he does it because he likes to see people recognize it in the comments, and it pops him when someone's like, "Is that this anime, this really obscure anime and stuff. So yeah, it is very much
that's a very editor thing to do.
And I love it. Absolutely love that he does it. But the majority of the time, I don't know. Jesse Venable says, Luke, best wrestling return. See Jon... I'll say Jon Moxley. Yeah, I said it for you, Jesse. And Jesse said this is his favourite WrestleTalk duos, or his favourite WrestleTalk duos are Ollie and Luke, SoCal and Laurie, and Simon and Luke. Oh. Hey, maybe we should do this more often.
Yeah. Well, obviously doesn't like screen stalking.
Oh, yeah. poor Pete. And the Zornice says, thanks to Pete for being awake and professional.
Fair play to Pete for actually.
Yeah, fair play to Pete. He did an amazing job while I was away. He ballsed up Patreon, something special, which I've got to fix in my spare time this evening. But credit to him. He did a really good job.
Yeah, well done, Pete.
Well done, Pete. He's a good lad.
Yeah, he's left a pizza box in the office though.
Yeah, I didn't want to bring that up because I came in this morning. I've been here for 2 weeks. It was a pigsty.
I know. Now
there were cups everywhere. There's a bike in the middle of the office.
Yeah.
Pizza box.
I know. Well, not to go too inside baseball for the folks at home, but there was a time when Pete was very annoyed at things on his desk. And here he is, just pizza boxing away.
A pizza box, if you will. Yeah.
Pizza Cornell.
Yeah, we'll tell a fun story, then we'll get out of it. When Pete first joined, it's probably about a week into him being here full time. He sent.
And by the way, he was totally right.
Yeah, I do want to stress. 100% in the right. But he just came, he was in first thing in the office, and he just sent this message to us in our WhatsApp group, just saying guys, I don't want to be that guy, but I've just spent the first 20 minutes of my day cleaning up the office because there was just cups everywhere, and the place was pretty gross.
Yeah. And mainly, regularly just leaving trash on his desk. That was an issue. But it was but because he just joined, we sort of made this big joke about it. I was like, Pete the Diva. Yeah.
Wants everything spotlessly clean.
And then for the next week, everything went on his desk. Because we're nice like that.
But anyway, right. Well, thank you all so much for all of your messages on Patreon. And thank you so much for watching today or listening on the podcast. Click the videos that have just appeared on the desk if you're watching on Catch Up, and catch up with more latest WrestleTalk and things. I've got a news video with all the backstage going on from AEW, including a fight between Jimmy Havoc and Excalibur.
Of course.
With Jimmy being reportedly intoxicated. And it was a fight that happened in front of President Tony Khan. So lots of stuff to dive into on That's a Good. Check that out. But for now, I have been Luke, and this is housemate Simon. I'm going to put my hand over here surreptitiously to say...
No one's noticed, it's fine.
And that was wrestling. I think I got away with it. Now I've got to scroll up here.
Stop streaming now.
I've got to press stop streaming. Okay.